What are some of the skills you bring to the table on City Council?
I bring educational skills and experience. I have a bachelor's degree in business and finance and an MBA from ISU. I worked as a commercial lender, lending primarily to small businesses for most of my career. I've also worked for many years, decades, in community projects, again, primarily focused on economic development and helping small businesses. East Central Idaho Planning and Development, which covers multiple counties in this part of the state, as well as now I'm on the board for the Idaho Falls Redevelopment Agency.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for that. Let's talk about a concern for a lot of people in Idaho, especially here in Idaho Falls, skyrocketing housing costs. Now, should the city get involved? If so, how?
Excellent question. I'm not sure the city has much influence on the price of real estate. Don't think a city council can do much with that. There are some other mechanisms that they can utilize. It's a fine line to walk between intervening in the market. I'm a firm believer in free market systems, but I think there are ways the city can encourage more affordable housing. Now, the other thing is there's a lot of multifamily housing going up right now. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see if the demand is there. We might see some of those prices drop if they don't fill up. So.
Okay. That's kind of related to my next question. Growth in Idaho Falls. How would you manage growth in Idaho Falls on the council?
Man, that's a $64 question right there. Growth comes from three different sources. You have, I guess you could call it organic growth, just the folks that live here. And we like that because we want our children and our grandchildren to be able to find jobs, find housing, enjoy living in Idaho Falls. Of course, the folks that move here for the same reasons, a lot of the same reasons. And then the folks that live in nearby communities that drive into Idaho Falls to work, to go to the doctor, to shop, to go to cultural and sporting events, all those things that Idaho Falls has to offer. How to manage that? One of the critical issues, I think, is transportation. Mm-hmm. And figuring out ways to move people through and around the city in the most efficient ways. Another thing is as development goes, we need to help the departments of the city process some of those requests. I think developers get frustrated at times because it takes longer than it should maybe to go through the application process and get from the beginning to the end so then they can begin a development. We have great departments. I've met with most of the department heads, with most of the directors, and they're professional people who work very hard at what they do. But as well as we do things, we can always do things better, and I think we can do some improvement in that area.
Okay. This is a little bit related here. We just talked about managing growth in Idaho Falls. Let's talk about property taxes.
Right.
Do you think something should be addressed, property taxes in Idaho Falls?
Good question. Good question. I don't know anybody that likes paying higher property taxes. Idaho Falls is one of several taxing entities that gets funding from property tax. Mm-hmm. We don't appraise homes, we don't set values. That's the county's job. Mm-hmm. I think there are various things that impact that, and one of them is education, and one of the struggles is that education doesn't have enough money from the state to build buildings, so they have to come to the local taxpayers. I think one of the things that we need to look at is getting the state to do more funding for local school districts, so it takes the burden off of the local taxpayer on the property tax.
Okay. Well, let's talk about our last question here. Do you think the city needs to make spending cuts? If so, where would you have those made?
You know, as I've spoken with various people that work for the city, they get very, very few calls from people who want to cut services. Mm-hmm. It sounds great to say we spend too much money, we need to cut, because nobody likes to pay taxes. But very few people want fewer services either. Now, different people have different pet services. That's because those are the ones they use. That's a challenge. We need to be efficient. We need to be careful. Spending tax money is a responsibility that carries great weight. But I think to stand on the outside and merely say we've got to cut, then you have to look at, okay, who do we cut? Do we tell kids they can't swim at the pool because we can't afford a pool? Do we tell people we can't respond quickly with police services because we had to cut police? Our fire department has one of the highest ratings available, and as a result, it keeps our insurance rates down. Do we want to sacrifice that? So I believe very strongly that we need to be as frugal as we can. But to just carte blanche say, well, we've got to cut taxes, it takes a little more work than that.